let's start with the Volvo. And this is the setup. I think I tried at first a little bit and then let's check the values, and the amount of cars now is so little in purpose, so I will have more time per each car and each setup to test those on different stages, and most likely I need to adapt a little bit the brake pressures at least, I think, and things like that. But I will read the information of this setup. It was created from Linus. These are all picked up from the Discord server of mine. So the information of this one was, I'm looking for some feedback on my setup for the Volvo. It's very different to many setups because it's super soft. So it will be super soft.
In the trousers all the time.
This setup have taken me to nearly 15 plus world records when we, as long as you can't own the 4-wheel drive car, so there should be some speed on it. And it's a gravel setup, insanely soft springs and dampers from Lönn's setup. So the damper settings are then from the setup that I had shared on the Discord, and the springs are insanely soft. I wonder what does it mean. We will see soon. This car fits my driving style perfectly. You can't drive this car without attack. Well, that's not a problem for me. You need to drive it all in to get the most out of it. Okay, there's really stiff dampers because the dampers are from my setup, and they're super soft springs. So how will that match the really aggressive driving style? I wonder, because the car body movements will be super slow with that kind of combination of dampers and springs. Yeah, and now he's looking for some feedback. Both negative and good feedback are allowed. Well, I would have maybe said both anyway. Hopefully there is good and bad. It sounds weird. It really sounds weird. Let's go and check, cause my dampers are pretty stiff for that car to get that kind of pretty slow movements that I wanted for this big Volvo. And the springs are really stiff that I'm using. Or not really stiff, but stiff. So those are then making the dampers move still a little bit. But how will this work now? With insanely soft springs and the stiff dampers. I think it will be super slow, all the body movements, and I hate that. So let's see.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, it takes like many seconds, I think, that the nose goes down when I hit the brakes.
Oli aika härski kohti, mekin roikuttiin siihen. Mä hailin ja ulkoin meinas jäädä sinne, hei. Irta pois tehdä. Sekin on hakenut.
It's very tricky for me. There's some lagging as well for some reason now, don't know why. The body movements are huge. And I think this is not the long gearbox. it's many seconds the weight transfer towards the front when I'm braking. Like from some kind of slow motion clip. It's bottoming out really hard on those semi-small compressions. It's breaking the grip for sure. looks that it's going to roll over. Yeah, it's not good on the compressions and pumps and things like that. If I do like that I just lift the throttle, the rear comes really loose, you see. So I think there is not a lot of preload, or at least not enough that I would like to have. It's not matching perfectly, in my opinion, to the feeling that I have then while I'm on the throttle. Or on the brakes. The car is the most loose definitely when I'm coasting. When I'm not pressing, not throttle or not brake. But it wasn't slipping a lot, maybe not at all, while I was on the throttle, so I think it can be pretty stiff, the throttle lock. There is just quite a lot of grip on the rear. I don't know. Let's check the values. I really want to know how are the springs and then try on other stages. I can try to do one fast run as well on this stage to see a little bit how I compare to the time that I have done with the Volvo. Actually, it's not on the setup gallery now, my setup. So we cannot compare it like that, but we can compare the time. Okay, it was maximum. So it explains why it wasn't slipping, I think. And then this is 130, so there's a lot of room to increase the preload to get rid of that really loose feeling while coasting that I didn't like, at least. This looks familiar, yes. But then what does insanely soft springs mean? Let's see. And hello Peronen and Diara and Black Eyes. 15, I mean, this is almost already realistic helper stiffness. Yeah, and 400 or 390 millimeters the length. The balance of the springs are, that's maybe somehow okay, but you know the values are very crazy. But he said, insanely soft springs. One camper, a big amount of negative toe on the front, 1.24, 273 the ride height, 265, so a little bit negative rake, and only 0.6 the camper on the rear. Okay. And these are pretty soft as well. I think if I would have to maintain the springs like that, I would increase the roll bar stiffness a lot to get some kind of, I don't know, feedback or control from the car. It was just now going everywhere really slowly. And then I would like to soften the dampers, especially the rebounds. I think it's just... Let's see some jumps. How long does it take the spring to extend with values like this on the spring stiffness and values like this on the damper rebound. Tires, no idea, pretty normal. Brakes 57 to 43, nothing special, pretty little amount of brake pressure, but I think I can deal with that now. And gears, those are even short. I'm 100% sure that the long is faster with this car. But we go now with the short. Okay, let's try on Savulampi because here is jumps. And few really long big road slides. I want to see and feel how much the car will be rolling. And yeah, more toe than camper. That's true. Yeah, there's a lot of torque and you know, according to my test, it's definitely faster the long gearbox. And now it's almost the first and second gear are like useless. I don't know why, but this is lagging now, the whole game again when I put the stream on. Even if I did the settings, that has helped to that streaming lag. But in my opinion, I'm driving this pretty gentle now. And the information was that this requires some heavy proper maximum attack to make the best out of this. Yeah, it took quite a lot of time. I would have thought that it would have taken even more time, the springs to extend fully, but on that kind of really big and high jumps when the car is long time in the air, I think it's okay, because the spring has the time to go long and be ready for the landing. But then when there's smaller jumps and bumps, especially if those are in a row, rebound and springs like that will never ever have time to be prepared for the next bump and next jumps, or even the landing of the smaller jump. But yeah, this kind of softness and slowness of the car suspension makes me want to drive it really gentle. I don't know, I think if I would do my proper maximum attack movements with the steering wheel and pedal, this car would not even react. It's so slow. It doesn't like match all this fast movements that I would like to do. I need to give a lot of time for things to happen. I need to give a lot of time on the brakings, the weight to transfer to the front to give me the grip to turn in, and I need to get time for the weight to transfer back when I'm going to the throttle before I have enough of grip there on the rear to go full on the throttle and everything like that. And then, even if... Oh, didn't know there is red greens on that. Did you see when the car landed from the call for help? Let's see again. I need to go further. How slow it is the rebound already there? Now. It's many seconds. But yeah, all the, you know, movements of the car, body and everything are really slow and basically controlled. But then the gearbox is something totally different, so it doesn't match, in my opinion, at all to the, I don't know, characteristic of the car. This is, if anything, would need the long gearbox. Now we missed that jump. Let's go a little bit. Mouse was somewhere else. I hope this did not cause no lag on the cameras. No. I would like to go back, but I can't because the car is moving. There you can see again the speed of the rebound. It's ridiculously looking. Super slow. And yeah, the differential may look extreme on the setup menu, but actually it's not while on the driving. I can handle it pretty easily. The maximum throttle lock and the braking, it feels pretty good. But only thing I would like to instantly change is the amount of reload. what comes to the differential, there is other things I would like to see as well instantly. But what comes to the differential, the preload is the issue for me. This is really feeling like it wants to roll over on those long fast corners. This is really bad jump for most of the cars, let's see. It was pretty okay considering it's old car, and as I said, it's really bad kicker, the landing for most of the cars. I want to do the car course again. I want to see a little bit the performance of this car, of this setup, but I think now the first impressions, the best thing of this car is how it behaves on braking. It's pretty nice. Expect the really end of the braking when I'm releasing the brake pedal and going more to the preload area, then it goes too loose for me. And the general balance, I mean, it's pretty okay and nice. It's not doing anything surprisingly, maybe because there is time to understand all the time what it's going to do, because it's so slow, all the movements. But it's pretty, you know, nice, the balance. It feels balanced, the car. There is nothing like where understeer at some point, where it's surprising oversteer if I drive somehow normally, but then think all the time that okay, now I will go to the area where the small amount of preload will cause the oversteer, but it's not like happening really surprisingly from the suspension, I would say. And I think the roll bars, even if those are really soft, the balance of the roll bars, it works really well. There is nice, somehow even amount of pressure and, you know, potential and everything on the front and on the rear when I'm leaning properly on the roll bars. On the long fast corners, those are feeling really balanced and good. But then what I don't like, I think it's extremely unrealistic how much there is the body movement on this car, how much it's bottoming out all the time, and how super long all the happenings are taking to happen. All the body movements, all the, you know, rebounds on the jumps and everything is just like on the slow down clip, slow motion clip. It's of course a little bit personal preference as well, what do you like, but I think it cannot be optimal for everyone. I may be wrong, but I think it's so extreme that a little bit faster movement should be good, I think. And then when we think the grip as well, I think the rebound is so slow that the car cannot have grip on many places as good as it could with more open rebounds. And then I know even, you know, some places it feels so massive, the roll and rotation of the body, that is it really good for the grip anymore? I don't know. Now I try to do fast time with this, because there is the one time with this car done by me where we can compare. And yeah, I normally prefer the same with Richard Burns Rally with rear wheel drive cars, that the preload is pretty high because the cars are incredibly unstable. So that calms down these nicely, and then it doesn't require so much of throttle lock. Yeah, and I think most of the Volvo setups that I have seen, there is quite a big amount of negative rake and soft rear. Really understeer balance on the roll bars, you know, lot of stuff to give grip to the rear. So I think you are not alone with the feeling that you really need softness to the rear of this car. Like on some pictures, can't remember the name, but some of the Swedish drivers are sharing the pictures of this car. It looks like the rake is something like -70 or something like that.
3, 2, 1, go.
Same that this is just lacking so much now. Let's see. But I mean, at least one thing cannot be a personal preference only. The car is bottoming out so much on the rough places that I need to back off. At least 1 second lost only because of those. I need to drive slow because I know that the car cannot handle those places. And I know as well that it could, this car, handle those places a little bit better. Not perfectly, but better. How did 3.1 second I lost. The middle sector was even as good as what I've done already with my own setup, but yep. So not a lot basically, but then how long the stage is, 4 kilometers, it's almost 1 second per kilometer, which is which is a lot. So I think if we would go to somewhere like Ouninpohja, I would lose half a minute. Yep. I don't know if there's anything other stages or anything else to test really with this setup or car now. Well, let's try something. How does it behave on wet? Most likely this setup is not even done for the wet, but it was so short now the test with this setup that let's try something. But I think all the basic stuff are already pretty clear what comes to the jumps and roughness and the general behavior of the car and everything like that. But what I was thinking on the previous stage many times, that the balance is actually good. I like the balance. It's a little bit even difficult to figure out
2, 1, go.
that what is the balance of this car, because it's so weird otherwise. But when really thinking to the balance of it, it's good. Gearbox so short and I can wheel spin on the 4th gear now when the grip is wet. And it's pretty easy to say from little moments that most often happens when there is some rough stuff. So that is basically a good thing as well. Now I'm off. Oh. In a way it's like stable, but then all the movements are at the end so big that it doesn't really feel like stable. A lot of guessing now on the driving. I don't really know what to even do. We can maybe watch a replay from this now because there is good cameras. The issue is that there's 2 different kind of books on Richard Virtually on this plugin now. It can make my dash disappear, and it can make the car sounds disappear when I watch a replay. And then I need to restart the game, which can make the cameras lagging. So we are not going to watch a lot of replays, but this is so interesting setup that maybe from this it would be nice. I don't know, did I like expect that the tires are not on the ground and there was or what? But I wasn't ready, like, you know, that the car goes there at that point. Thanks for following. Oi. Never read the chat while driving. It's also true on the phone when you are on the normal traffic, you know, with the car in real life. It can then happen like that. Again, really weird. I don't know what the car will do. It's really difficult to understand what there is happening on the front. It feels basically so soft on the really beginning of the landings. But basically I think when we think the 3 possible surfaces, wet, damp or dry, the springs are so soft that this should match the best for this wet grip, but I wouldn't say this is any kind of match made in heaven still. Like one of the slowest corner of the station, I can do it with the 5th gear. In a way I like this. This is totally new kind of stuff for me. This is basically fun challenge. Every time when I brake I need to like rethink like I would be living on the new world. This is so different. But still the balance is good and the behavior basically is good, so it's fun. It's not like frustrating that everything goes wrong all the time. It's just fun in a really different and new way. But optimal it's not. It's semi-easy to recover this car from big slides. Now I don't know how much I should brake for this corner. Ah, almost! I should have got the inside ditch on the really late apex more. But it's doable with that kind of speed, I think. First surprise, but I think I was really too much on the high gear, you know, the amount of wheel spin was massive. The wheels wanted to go like 180 and I was going something like, I don't know, 100. I think that even if the rear is really soft what comes to the springs, it could have more grip, especially in these conditions. If the damper would be softer, it just takes so long time the weight to go to the rear now and give the grip. I would like to shift more gears. With gear ratio like this, I would like to have 8 or 9 speed gearbox, I think. Let's put the replay and I catch the chat. Viima Brunner, thanks for following. Bro AT. Yeah, maybe it's too stiff for these conditions, but you know, again, I like it that
3, 2, 1, go.
It was somehow predictable what comes to all the other behaviors than the behavior then on the jumps and rough stuff. Then I had no idea like what the car will do. But when it comes to the general balance and how the balance behave, considering the grip and everything like that, it's predictable and logical basically. Now we cannot see it fully on the replay because the grip is so low. But especially with on good grip conditions, it's moving crazy amount the car body. don't know if there is good corner to see that at all now with this grip. But anyway, we can see a little bit how does the car look. And I think generally when we don't think the amount of suspension trouble and body moving, the position of the car body, it looks pretty good all the time for me. It's not like way too much front heavy. It's not like way too much rear heavy. How does it look? It looks pretty balanced. On every corner it looks pretty high when we are looking from inside because the body movement is so big. But yeah, really really weird stuff for me. And as a conclusion I would say that bad things are how it behaves on the bumps and jumps. How everything is taking so much time to happen. I think that cannot be optimal for everyone, at least not for me, and I think the general amount of grip is suffering as well. And then it's more already a detail, but I would like to have a more preload on the differential. Good things are the general balance of the car. It really feels pretty balanced in almost every situation, except that preload area. So if I fully lift the throttle and I'm not touching the brakes, the rear feels super loose. But when being on the throttle, when being on the brakes, it feels balanced. There's no surprises, and it's not only, you know, logical and unsurprising. I think it's also good. It's possible to drive fast with that kind of balance, at least for me. It's not only the, you know, balance of the grip, how much there is understeering, how much there is oversteering. It's also the how does it feel? You know, the suspension travel to the weight transfer to the front, or the weight transfer to the rear, or the weight transfer from side to side. Everything feels in a good way similar. It's not like that the front will be super soft compared to the rear, or the sideways rolling will be super fast compared to the weight transfer front and back. Those all feel really good. How those are balanced together. Everything is just really, really slow. And I think that's all I have to say with this car. Big thanks to sending this setup, as always, but especially this was so different. That had maybe, you know, enough of grip to make the car really leaning to the side, which we cannot see now properly because of the grip conditions. It was Linus, the guy who sent this setup, so big thanks. It was definitely something new and basically fun to try. And I don't know, if you want, I really highly recommend to make the, you know, movements a little bit faster, and maybe that will then increase your performance as well. How is the driving style then different? Antti is asking the same. Okay, yeah, you are throwing the car. I don't know, maybe with practice I could do the same, but this is so different than my setup that I don't have confidence to do it. I don't basically know that what and when and how much I should do when really throwing this car the proper pre-slide. I don't know, it's so different than what I'm used to. But I have no reason to doubt what you are saying. I believe you are fast with this setup. And basically, you know, softness on the setup, it means gripness as well. So maybe, but I think, I don't know if you have tried to change the dampers. You said those are copied from my setups, but those cannot be optimal for this suspension. I will definitely try, especially faster rebound. But anyway, big thanks again to sending this setup. It was fun and different to try. Then we moved to the Mitsubishi Lancer, and that setup is sent by Antti, who is there on the chat as well, and there was some information as well. So this is developed during Suomi 1993, which was a championship driven with these cars. And the center diff is a bit open, so you can use the handbrake, but mostly it goes with scanty flicks. Okay, that was the little information, and after that information he sent an update to the Discord, and we will now try the update version. Let's use Carcass again as a stage where to start with, and it's this one, and again I removed all the others, so we have only this. Or I did not remove, I put those on another place, let's say like that. I almost went to the settings, but let's first try again. What I know from Antti is that he likes front heavy diffs what comes to the throttle, and he does not like car which rotates good from exit to the entry. Or let's say car that rotates a lot from exit to the entry. It's not maybe good, but those are the informations that I know from the chatting he has done on the Discord. Did I say from exit to entry? I mean from apex to exit. I don't know what did I say, but what I should say was from apex to exit. But anyway, let's see.
3, 2, 1, go.
I think it's pretty front heavy, the balance of the car. Like the rear is either, yeah, the rear is either really high or really stiff, or maybe even both. It feels that it's really planted the front all the time to the ground, like down. Yep, it is. And the rear feels really lightweight when I'm braking and turning in. Got some kind of, you know, front wheel drive car flashbacks. No idea where is that comparing. Like the balance is that kind of balance that I have no single feeling to the rear to do something like this kind of stuff, to throw the car, because it's, I don't know, it's a lot, it must be high. Relatively stiff, but it must be high compared to the front. It feels like there's no weight to throw from side to side when doing any scanty flick stuff. It feels that this must be driven like front first. Not over counter steering maybe at all. As less as possible what comes to the counter steering. It also feels pretty stiff, which I like. It's an old car, these should be pretty stiff compared to the new cars. And the movements, especially the bump, is happening still relatively slow, I think. So is it that the dampers, especially from the bump side, are pretty stiff? Let's see a little bit how does it look, the movement when just pumping the brake and throttle. Yeah, it's high. It's high the rear. This is the best camera angle for me, but I can make it a little bit better for the stream, I think. You can see it already. And there's actually quite a lot of camper as well. That must be something like where 3 at least, maybe even close to 5. I don't know, between 3 and 5. Yeah, pretty slow the movements. Like basically soft looking, but it still feels stiff while driving, so it must be the pump values are pretty stiff. And it doesn't want to drop the rear lower than the front in basically at all, but then on brakings it's really high, the rear compared to the front, which I think, I don't know actually how realistic that is, because I'm not expert of this car, definitely not. The amount of suspension travel is maybe a little bit too much compared to the real-life Group A cars, but you know, that's almost always the thing what comes to return burns rally. It's really difficult to make these as stiff looking as the real cars, at least without any issues then. And stiffer it's definitely than the default, or it's not as ridiculous the amount of suspension travel than on the defaults, which is good when we think about the realism, I think. Then let's see. I say it quite a lot, if those are correct at all. Let's start from this. This is on the 50. Okay, that was the information as well. It is pretty open to allow the handbrake use. I think it wasn't turning really well on braking, so it's either that we have quite a lot of locking on the brakes or that the brake balance is really front heavy. I wasn't so limited on the brakings that I could really tell now. Let's see. This is at least not, a huge amount. And we have 50% on the throttle on the rear. And then on the front. And then 30 on the rear. And 45 the brake lock. I think the brake balance is quite front heavy because this relatively big amount of brake lock on the rear does not explain the feeling that I have. I think that the front of the car did not want to turn in to the corner, and I think it's not possible to change by reducing this to the 0. Then these ones, what we have, 180 and 180. Okay, nothing, or basically too much compared to the real life, but again, in written only it is like this. So nothing surprising there. Dampers, I think I say that the pumps are maybe quite stiff. They are 5.5 and 6.6 even on the rear. Yep, so pretty stiff dampers and pretty soft springs. I would have guessed maybe a little bit more, but maybe I was confused because the dampers are so stiff. So it's a little bit like, at least for me, when setting up a Group A 4-wheel drive car, I want to make those faster and shorter what comes to the suspension travel compared to the real cars, which I want to make softer, longer and slower. So this is, compared to my setups, I think a little bit, different approach. There is the slowness and big control from the dampers, and then the softness comes from springs, but to give enough of ride height you need relatively long springs. So then you got the quite big and slow movements. The balance of the spring is surprising, because the car felt pretty understeering, but these are almost equal, the spring stiffnesses between the front and rear. So I don't know then what all is causing that understeer. Well, of course the throttle locks, how those were, 50 on the front, 30 on the rear, but it was understeer on the braking as well and basically everywhere. So this is surprising, the balance of the spring stiffness for sure. Okay, nothing on the top mount position, only tiny amount of caster. Yeah, huge amount of camper here. And 0.6 the toe, I would have guessed less, because again, it was understeer, difficult to turn in, it doesn't felt like reactive at all. Maybe the dampers are then too stiff to give that kind of fast reacting, I don't know. And then let's see, there must be at least 40 millimeters of rake, maybe a lot more, I don't know. 260 and 311, so is it, how much is it, 50 millimeters already? That's a lot. Approximately same amount of camper and a little bit positive toe then on the rear. And these then, but these are really soft. Okay. Tires, nothing special. Brakes, nothing special. How the car was so difficult to turn in? Don't know. And long gears. Yep. No, they are not off ground. It's not. They're still, you know, it's not affecting so much the rake that the rears will be off ground. Yeah, let's try something else. What was the Oskola, where Pate just sent the big time with YouTube video? Let's go there. But yeah, I like it what comes to the general balance. I like it the previous Volvo setup. It was more like for me. This really feels like a front wheel drive car, how this should be driven, I think. Reminds me a little bit of, didn't remember how the stage goes. Little bit in a way that, you know, R5 Rally 2 cars, how is the balance? And you may know that I don't like at all how those are in Ridge and Burns Rally. Like the front is all the time really loaded. It feels there's a lot of pressure and, you know, you can turn the car, but the rear is not sliding still. Except maybe, you know, on the tighter corners when I turn in, when I release the throttle. Don't remember the stage good enough to stay on the road, even on the jumps. Many rolls. Yeah, but you know, even now, even there's the 50% lock. I can use the handbrake, yes, but it's not like super effective. But it's, you know, it's good to have there, but don't miss it too much still, I would say. Of course you can make it even more effective by reducing the center differential locking, but then you start to have more issues, or other issues. I try now on the next corners, if I somehow remember how these are going, to throw the car a little bit more. And yeah, it does that, you know, front wheel drive car system. When I do the throwing, it takes a little time before nothing happens, I think, because everything is so stiff from the dampers. And then when it happens, it does rotate well, the rear feels pretty light and unloaded. But then, wash out happens. You know, it's feels like really front heavy the car. First the rear is light and you can almost a little bit snap it even if generalities feel understeering. And then somehow, you know, all the weight on the front and everything takes over and it almost was out there at the exit, the front of the car. No idea about the stage. Now we have the long flat, actually we don't. Okay, I can't. We need to change the stage. I don't remember without base notes. Let's try it on some technical. I think balance like this will suit me the best on technical when there is even no possibility to really do big slides or big lines, which I don't like to do with balance like this. But here, you know, driving with almost like front wheel drive car, it's anyway the case when it's really narrow. Yeah, maybe. But I don't know the rally history well enough that I have no idea what Ken Eriksson has liked or said. Takes really long time the rears to go down. I think it's not, you know, realistic, but we haven't had big jump yet, so let's see maybe if it's a secret to good jump behavior. I should also use a little bit higher brake pressures. That's a little bit making this too tricky for me. I need to press so hard the pedal, a lot harder than I'm used after the real life R5 test when I increased my brake pressures on the car setups a lot. The same good thing on this setup, at least that there was on the previous setup as well of the Volvo, that it's predictable. It's not surprisingly snapping or doing any understeer stuff or anything like that. You need to learn how the setup is, then you know how it is, and then you just try to drive as good as you can with it. Try to adapt your driving style with it. And there seems to be no, you know, surprises what comes to the general behavior and balance of the car. I try on the next, after this stage, to increase a little bit the brake pressures. Because it's really, you know, off where I'm used to. Here is a difficult bump for the cars. Let's see. It took it okay. And I think I need to wait a little bit longer that I would want to before I go to the throttle, because then it's pretty understeer when I go to the throttle. So if I go too early, I will understeer away from the exit of the corners. Left foot braking maybe helps to that, but I'm not so used to use it on situations like that, that I would really know even what to do basically. if I try and it still feels in a way that I don't like, it's not maybe fault of the setup, it's just because that's not the way I drive at all. To left foot brake on the middle of the corners to avoid exit oversteering. Sorry, exit understeering. Good behavior, there's little compression and bump on that corner as well. Now I don't remember the stage so well anymore. If you somehow nail the car to turn in and learn that, I think it can be pretty fast, because especially the exit of the tight corners, those must be fast, because there is single amount of oversteering. All the power you put that goes like to the road in a good way, that accelerates the car out from the corner. Here I got a little oversteer because it was still in the ditch, the left front corner, left front tire. But generally I think it's really fast setup to accelerate out from the corners. If I just somehow would manage to do the entry and middle of the corner on the proper way. You know, that kind of balance of the car that I would like to have somewhere on really technical and rough stage, maybe on Cormoran or something like that. Especially if it's slow. Maybe not, you know, the roughness is not the point, but, you know, slow gravel exits. What would be better than Cormoran even? VX Moline Perrancy. That long French stage. Something like that. You know, where you need good exits from sleepy gravel exits. That must be, you know, that kind of stage. Yeah, I think, you know, everyone who like front wheel drive cars, this setup will suit them really good. Then we need some jumps. Let's try owning pohja. But it's now difficult, you know, most of this feedback I have given are just personal, because this is not the way I would like to drive the car. So it's really difficult to give then a lot other feedback, I think. But what we can still see and I can still feel is that it's logical, it's really stable, like, you know, front wheel drive style of setups normally are. And that way easy. I forgot to do the braking stuff. And now, you know, the only big possible question mark is we need to maintain the 56. The only big possible question mark is the jump then. With cars like this, we can do this. But then if we would have active center differential, it's not only affecting to the brake pressure, but also the way how this brake map is working when you decrease or increase the brake pressure basically. But now it should be safe to do without affecting to the setup otherwise. I cannot go flat out through the jumps. Well, it's not problem, I think it's like it should be with these old cars. I think Subaru was a pretty good jumper. I did some setup for that a long time ago, but to make it good jumper I need to use relatively stiff dampers as well. Can't remember if those were as stiff as with this setup now on this car, but close, I think. Yeah, this is lacking even more now. It's, you know, nice again when the cars championship is starting and suddenly if I get some stream lag issues out of nowhere. want to restart because I want to get speed for the braking of the next junction because it's really tricky braking. I want to see how I manage to do it. But yeah, I don't know, as I said, there's no differences compared to the everything that I did a few days ago when I was driving the Classic Cup. And now it's laggy. All the cameras, all the settings, OBS, everything are same. Here it's, you know, I'm used to on there, for example, it's either both ends of the car or rear that goes loose and away from me, but with this setup it's the front. There as well, I'm not getting the rotation, the mid corner anymore. It feels that the rear is stiffer on the jumps. It's like when I land, the rear feels like it stays on the top and the front does the dip. But how does it behave? This is now first jump to really see it. Okay. Like most of the 17 spec WRC cars are posing the rear more on that in this game. So it feels a lot worse than it feels like it's off. That it's a lot stiffer the rear, like unnecessary stiff on the bumps compared to the front especially, but so far the behavior has been okay on jumps. I don't know if you were able to see, but you know, the front goes a lot faster down than the rear, and it somehow even stays there on the down compared to the rear of the car. For the small bumps and jumps, I'm pretty sure that a little bit softer dampers would help. Basically there's no issues, a little bit bouncy is, but not in a way that it would be issues still. It just feels wrong. Those are not like absorbing the bumps. Those are so stiff, but big jumps are always different case, and so we will see. Oho! There was a need to counter steer the exit of the corner. Tiny bit, maybe 5 to 10%. Okay. The rear feels bounce in a way that it's too stiff. But that's really tricky jump. I don't know if it's coming from the balance of the, you know, suspensions on the landings, that the front is going so fast down and the rear does almost nothing, or why it's bouncing, like the front of the car is changing the line and place in almost every landing, and that is not good. This is really bad for the cars as well. Okay. And you know, it's all every little compression is the front of the car that is hitting to the bump stops, which are really stiff or bottoming out, whatever there happens. So it like loses the grip and ability to do anything, and the rear just stays high and really stiff. So it feels like unstable and out of balance understeer on those situations. It's generally understeer, which is just, I think, a personal preference, but there on compressions and jumps and heavy landings, it's like out of hands the balance change. It really feels that the front, you know, does whatever it wants, most likely go to the direction of the target, and then the rear just stays there pretty okay, which means it's pushing the car straight. I don't know, I tried to do when I've been doing front wheel drive car setups, I use a lot of left foot braking on that corner, but it feels that even with left foot braking it's pretty understeering compared how I like the front wheel drive cars to be. But in a way, again, it's just again a personal preference. And I think always, especially in Ridge and Burns Rally, if you can just make the understeer setups to work, those will be faster. And it's one issue of mine that I don't like the front wheel drive cars and the front wheel drive car kind of setups. When I think where would I find maybe the final performance that I could challenge the proper aliens. I could make my setups a lot more towards understeer, but I just don't like them anymore, and I'm not so sure if those are realistic anymore when compared to the inputs and data and everything you can get from the real life. But I'm sure that, you know, with the right hands, this setup is fast. I think little bit grip there could be more easily easily to get the grip from softer dampers, but the balance is somehow that kind of front wheel drive balance that I think that should be fast. Maybe there is no need to drive the wall owning pohja. I don't know if there is any more stages to try. Let's quickly try Heusinkveld if I could figure out something else still. Hyvää iltaa. Speed blindille. Now I just really try to think that, you know, I drive differently.
3, 2, 1, go!
And then we can maybe see the replay again. It did not break anything last time, which is good. Let's restart quickly. Lower gears, well, that's again something. I don't know if I'm smart enough that I could handle the balance, that is not for me, and gearing, that is something I have never done. Let's try.
3, 2, 1, go!
So front wheel drive car, this is now under me, and it doesn't like if I go too early down on the gears on the brakings. That is the thing I am saying in my head now all the time. No! One more restart. It's either you got a massive amount on that corner or then not at all, and then it works. But somewhere exactly there is the thing that it doesn't work. So it's either not at all or then massive, but not little amount, because then it's not going to work.
3,
But again on
2,
the
1, go.
jumps before the Henning crash corner, it was the front which is really soft and bouncy, but the rear does nothing, so I think so much thoughts that I need to stop. Either to skip the front like that and make the rear softer. I think it should at least make it more balanced. Don't know if it would help a lot to the jumping behavior. Maybe. And then another thing that could maybe be tried is stiffening the front, because it's so fastly bouncing now and causing issues. And then if you still want the same somehow similar weight transfer towards the front, decrease the rear rebound. Impossible to say now which would be better way to do, but considering that how stiff the values are for gravel on the dampers, on the pump values, I would first try the softer rear. And of course, if it's then cause some even more understeer issue when you are going to the throttle on the corners, maybe more front rebound could help, or more neutral balance of the throttle locks or something like that. But I think there is a lot of ways to go over the possible change which you maybe don't like if you make the rear bumps softer. But for bumps, I think something needs to be done. When there is big jumps which is going straight, it's not such a big issue. But when you need to turn on the landings, or if you are going even pretty slight amount of corner and the front is to change in direction on every landing, it's, at least for me, taking away the confidence to drive. Because I don't really can trust that, okay, now I'm going this, for example, flat left over crest, that when I land the flat over crest, that I can still maintain the rotation that I need for that flat left. But I think it's not the, I think it's the damper, not the spring, that is feeling so stiff on the rear, what comes to the jumps. Who knows, it's, possible to make a little bit softer and better with the softer springs. But then on the other hand, the general balance of the car, it's already pretty understeer, and if you soften the spring from the rear, it's in every single situation going to make the car more understeer still. And if you reduce the pump only, it's more about the exit of the corners, maybe a little bit on the middle of the corners, but at least not on the braking, where it's going to make the car more understeer. So you could go with less understeer issues by softening the pump than softening the whole spring from the rear. And as I said, from my experiences, how does it feel? How does it look? It's the damper, it's especially the speed, how it's happening, which is mostly controlled by the damper. What was the plan? No aggressively downshifting, and this is front wheel drive car. And I did the Henning with the 6th gear because I'm not allowed to change down now with these rules. Oh, now I need to. Again, the front tried to kill me on the landing, and the rear did like. It's so unbalanced. how stiff the rear is and how soft the front is on the landing. But still I would want to try to soften the rear first, because in general the values are really stiff. So going softer would be more realistic, I think, and it would give more grip as well. If you are now wondering that if the front is then so soft, why would not to increase the front bump first? Maybe that could help as well, but I think it would have more negative side effects. Because when normal driving, braking and turning the car, it's not really soft at all, the front. So it's pretty stiff still. It's really tricky to say that how much it's affecting the soft feeling and behavior of the front. The value itself that there is at the moment, it was 5.6 or something like that. And how much is then coming that you are comparing the front to the rear, which is super stiff. Or not maybe super stiff, I have seen stiffer and try it by myself as well, but you know, the behavior, how this goes on landings, it feels super stiff the rear compared to the front. There as well, it was just the front that is bottoming out, not the rear. And for sure, the fact that the rear is what, 60mm higher than the front, it's definitely, it must be part of that. But if there is something that you need for the general balance of the car, something that you like, this kind of really heavy front wing drive feeling, again, I would not maybe change that first. But if you want to, I think it must be one step to go towards the more realistic setup, I think. Again, you know, it's just leaning to the front. It feels like have almost maximum compression on the front right, and the rear is just somewhere there and really high. There is, you know, it feels like almost missing the natural weight transfer, that you go into the corner, weight goes to the front, you turn to the left, for example, weight goes to the right, and you accelerate out, weight goes to the rear. Now the part where the weight goes to the rear, it feels like missing, because you know, you have stiff rear spring, you have stiff rear damper, and you have really high ride height compared to the front on the rear as well. I don't know, you know, how big of an issue it is basically, but for me it feels weird, like one part of the car behavior is missing totally. Or not maybe totally, but at least it's really difficult to feel how it's happening there, or if it's at all. Let's see a little bit how it's looking. What? I did the opposite. Okay. But then generally I think it's not an issue, a big issue, because normally I change down really early. So if I would need to change even more earlier, I think that will be again towards really unrealistic stuff. But yeah, what was the first, negatives or positives? Maybe negatives. It's a big personal preference how understeer you like the car. For me, it wasn't good. And then I think it also a little realistic issue, because here I think I'm at least releasing the brakes, maybe already a little bit on the throttle. And look at the angle of the car. It's pointing down more than the Yaris Rally 1. So it cannot be the most realistic way either. And then things that are not so personal, I think there could be semi-easy to get more grip by softening the damping. It's so stiff Not maybe lot, in case the stiff damper is needed for jumping behavior. Basically the rear was really good on the jumps now, and it's really stiff. But the balance between the front and the rear on the jumps is issue. I think it's making the car's behavior unpredictable. The front is bouncing, going up and down really fast, while the rear does nothing. It's changing the line on the landings and things like that. How to fix it? Already said, few options. Either try to make the rear a little bit softer. Maybe it could help if those are more balanced. It's many times surprisingly lot depending of the timing, how the car behaves on ridge and burns rally. Some people who are watching these things from the data, they are watching the timing, that the front and rear are bottoming out same time, and from there they can find good jumping behavior. Another way would be to increase the front stiffness, of course, but again I think it will just take away even more the grip. So I hope at least some better driving jumping behavior would be find from softening the rear. And maybe another way would do it is change the rake, increase a little bit the front ride height, maybe decrease the rear because the rear wasn't bottoming out a lot, the front was all the time. So something like that I will try for that thing. And yeah, of course the rake is not really realistic looking. Good things are definitely it's really stable in every other situation I think than on the jump landings. It's predictable again, same worse than with the Volvo. It's somehow same way understeer all the time. And it's really easy to understand how the car is. When you really throw in a way the high and not loaded rear, it gives you a little snap there, but it just results, at least on long corners, a big wash out at the exit of the corners. But that's how I guess it is already before really trying it, when understood that how the setup is driving. So basically it's logical, and I don't know, it's disturbing me too much, the front wheel drive car allergic that I have, that it's affecting maybe too much to everything. But let's see the replay still at least. And I think the sensitive is, if you want to allow the handbrake use, it's okay. You can use the handbrake, it's not as effective than on the modern cars. There you can see it. The rear does almost nothing and the front is like a trampoline. It's so heavy how the front goes down and the rear is a lot more controlled. From replay you can see that actually the rear is there working as well, but the front is so much faster and softer that actually when driving it feels that the rear does nothing when the front is like that. But I don't know, I'm not expert of this car, there is some cars in this game that even with fast pump value of 10, which is the maximum of those cars, the front works like that still. So that's good to keep in mind that you never know, maybe it's not possible to even fix totally with the setup. Maybe it is, I don't know, but that's something that must be said. Sometimes these are a little bit tricky. And hey, of course, if the goal is realism, I think somewhere Antti said that he cares nothing about the realism. But the camper is too much. Yeah. And one thing I like it is somehow the general stiffness of the car. It's not feeling too soft, like crazy soft, like these cars are possible to do in rich and virtual, even in these old cars. It has that kind of stiff feeling than old cars should have compared to the modern cars. And it's a little bit weird, you know, the roll bars are really soft and I can see it from the replay, how much the car is leaning. But it didn't felt like that. But it may be that before this car, I was driving the Volvo, which was super soft. That I got used to a little bit different. I think on the dampers as well, you know, the suspension travel out is not happening like way too slowly, considering the things we have now seen. So something needs to be done for the pump values, I think. Either increase the front or then reducing the rear to get those little bit more balanced and get rid of that things that happens on the landings. And basically on the heavy compressions as well. Doesn't need to be a jump, I think. Yeah, and you know, you have been commentating many times that it's, you know, you don't like the how many of the cars are oversteering from apex to the exit of the corner. And well, this setup definitely is not so. You have like found the ways and the cars to get away from the things that you don't like. So that's, you know, succeed. You have managed to do it. So it's a good thing. I just don't like it at all, but that's the personal thing. It's not like negative feedback at all. Definitely not. You have understood what you like, what you don't like, and you have understood how to, you know, put things in a way on the car behavior that you like. So it's then like, good job. And yeah, I think, you know, this is understeer car in general, for example, compared to the Impreza. And then the setup as well is understeer. But when thinking, for example, again, the balance of the springs, those were almost equal front and rear, and still this is so understeer, so it tells something that the general balance of this car is quite understeer still. I think the Celica is understeer as well, but generally it's a lot more difficult car, I think, than this one or the Impreza or the Escort. This is actually the less driven, definitely for me. But maybe that's the that's the thing, that this is so understeer. Then we have tried 2 setups in 1.5 hours. It's quite a lot. But I say that we only try few setups tonight to really give time for these, so at least that has happened today. Now we have Mazda, and big thanks for Antti and good night. Now we have Mazda, so it's same car from the same category, 4-wheel drive systems, everything. But it's really difficult. It's shorter, I think it's closer to 50-50 what comes to the weight distribution and everything like that. So even if it should be like same, it's a lot different. And as a car, it should be a lot more a car that I like. No idea about the setups then. It's this one. So yeah, look at that. On Mitsubishi, the weight systems is 60%. So 60% of the weight is on the front axle and 40% on the rear. Mazda is 50%. And even if it's 10% only, it may sound little, but it's not. It's a big difference. So this really is a front heavy car, and this is not. Let's see. Another thing there is difference to the Mitsubishi, that the central diff is not, you know, there is no way to adjust it. It's just full locked all the time, basically, how it behaves. So similar than the R5, Rally 2, WRC 1.6 before the 2017 spec. and rally ones. Similar, basically, systems there. We have 2 setups, one for gravel and one for tarmac. Let's go the gravel first, because now the touch is for the gravel. Seems that I cannot speak anymore, but we have information from this one as well. Quite a bit of information. I try to pick up the gravel information first. He has been wondering if any of us, people on the Discord, have experienced the Mazda and may be able to give me some pointers. I have been trying, based on Joonas videos, and take the suggestions in them to make the 323 handle better. On gravel, it's in the really slow stuff, like 90s corners on Sirdon head, that the rear just doesn't quite grip the way I would prefer. So he has been struggling with the acceleration grip out from the slow corners. The thing that the previous car and setup did really well, basically. Any advice would be appreciated, and thanks in advice and for being, from what I have seen so far, a great community here. There on the Discord. Why not here in the stream as well? So let's see. We need to go to the Sirdon head because it was mentioned there, but let's first try the car here. Slow corner acceleration grip. And if I remember right, there was some update either to this one or then to the tarmac setup, and I downloaded it, so the information can be a little bit old. Okay, now the replay did what it normally is doing. It muted, and I don't know if it muted what everything, so I restart the whole game, and let's see if I get some camera lagging then. I've been driving this car on tarmac. I tried to do setup for this actually on the stream, and I failed. I did not get the rear to grip in a way that I would want it to grip. I gave up. I tried everything many times and no success, then I gave up. I didn't want to share a setup that I'm not happy with. On gravel it should be not such a big issue if the rear is sliding. Okay, and now, because I alt-tapped the way, there is big delay on the camera, and I will need to fix it. Give me 1 minute for that. That's gone, and no big delay on the face camera. Let's hope. Yep, now we are away from the delays.
2, 1, go. 5 right, extra long, and guidance.
Tell me if the car audio is too loud. To my ears it feels louder than the previous. It feels pretty fast now, the dampers and movements, so this can be in many ways totally opposite to the setup that I was just driving on the Lancer. Yep, it is. Now it's rotating on the middle of the corner and on the exit as well, not only at the beginning. The rear is quite snappy on the end of the brakings. Guess it's a preload thing. But it's also short car and it's pretty fast from the dampers, so those are all affecting that. Quite front heavy setup it feels again. I think, you know, when we look this outside, the front is pretty easy to put down, lower than the rear, but the rear doesn't want to go lower than the front a lot. I need a lot more brake pressure to this car again, but it's easily done. And I think from damper balance it feels as well that the front is quite soft compared to the rear, which may be already one part of the issue you had on the slow corner acceleration grip. That the rear dampers could be maybe softer. It's rolling quite a lot. The roll bars cannot be really stiff. Let's see already, I want to know how does it look. Again, let's put it better for the stream. Yep, look at when I brake. It goes quite much down, quite fast. As well, the rear goes quite fast up. Nothing crazy fast. To my eyes, the speed how everything is happening, it's looking pretty good. The general ride height is it's quite high. I don't know if that is part of the feeling that the car is rolling a lot from side to side. But then it's a lot slower in my opinion how the weight goes towards the rear. It wasn't so bad than I thought, you know. I was thinking first that the rear is not going lower than the front at all, and the front is just all the time lower. It looked pretty okay, the balance from that point of view, but the balance of the weight transfer speed is a little bit off. In case we would want those to be similar, it's not always the case. It doesn't have to be like that. Not at all. But in a case when someone is struggling the acceleration grip, it would be helpful to make the rear softer and thus the weight transfer more equal between the front and rear. Pretty bouncy the rear there. Yep, let's see the values. I want to know them now quickly. Difficult to say a lot, yet it was so different car than the Mitsubishi. Of course it will oversteer, but if it's too much, I would say only place where, in my opinion, already it's too much is coasting. It's pretty, you know, loose and soft and feelingless car while coasting. Oh my god, sorry Johan von Forst. If you feel sad about it. I've never done it, so I'm not going to do it now, because the point of this stream is to test setup, and if I change the, you know, driving from another science is so different for me that I cannot test the setup, then I just learn to drive. Yeah, the brakes as well need to be changed for me. This one cannot be changed as said. Front we have 30% on the throttle side, 0 on the brake. The car was turning well on the braking, so that's one reason of that. But I would not say that it's turning too well. It's pretty common to have the brake lock totally open on fast gravel, so nothing weird on that, definitely not. Only 10% on the rear. This is part of the thing that the car is so oversteering. I know. Really little throttle lock on the rear. And still it's rotating pretty okay on the throttle. We have 30 on the front, 10 on the rear, and still it's rotating okay on the throttle, so think about that. And even if the brake lock is 65, this is something like rough tarmac value. So still it's turning okay on the braking, so these values here on the rear differential can give you a little idea how oversteer car this is. With some, I don't know, Lancer Evo, Group N, Group 4, this will be another way around. And here we have 60 and 120. These are pretty, the difference is pretty big, and these are pretty small values as well, I think, in Ridge and Burns Rally, which totally explains why the car was feeling a little bit, you know, unsettled, really loose and soft and slippy on coasting. Dampers, yep, 2.4, 2.5 and 4 approximately. doesn't look bad at all, in my opinion, but I would maybe reduce a little bit the rear bump, at least give that a try. Another option would be to reduce the front rebound, but now about looking these values and comparing these to all the others I have seen during the, I don't know, 15 years, I would first try to reduce the bump value. Springs, okay. These are again pretty equal between front and rear, and many times on really oversteer cars it's normal to have 5 or even 10 softer on the rear. But I can remember from my testing on the tarmac that even if I reduced the spring stiffness on the rear, it did not really help. Then the car was just oversteering in a soft way from the rear. So it can be a tricky car for that. But in case it's not tried yet, I will try softer spring on the rear. Then geometry 306 on the front and 324, so there is a bit more than 15 millimeters rake. It's pretty neutral. Doesn't really explain why the car is so oversteer at all. Really high the car is, what we were already able to see from the outside. And it's also high from the values. I think top mode position, putting it to the 7 and maximizing the caster could help to control the car on the slides. It should make it a little bit more stable, in case that is something you wanted. And otherwise, I don't know, more toe to the rear would make it more stable on really bad situations where the oversteering is a big issue. There has been, you know, close to the 1.0 values on the toe, and at least on some setup already today the toe was +1. It must have been the Volvo then, I think. So there could be, you know, something to find against the oversteer to increase a lot the toe on the rear. It's not an issue on the Ritz and Burn solid because, you know, tire are never issue, at least on the 4-wheel drive cars, you know, overheating or anything like that. So those can be done without affecting too much to the tires, because tires affect so tiny little on Ritz and Burn rally. Roll bars 4 and 6. Again, maybe the rear will be softer, the front will be stiffer if the oversteering is issue, but mainly it will affect to the apex of the corner, little bit on the exit as well, but I think that is not the medicine number 1 for the exit oversteer. Tires 190, 190. Brakes like that. This one should be increased for me, so again let's maintain that 64. So I maintain the balance that the setup creator wanted. Like that. And then hey, how are the gears? Medium. It felt okay. This is a lazy car. I want to do one more here on the car cows to think a bit more. The car, it's now so different as said already than the Lancer before. No, actually never. I have considered it, and this is basically second time ever I am driving the Mazda, and I think for all the other cars it's, you know, okay to drive from left side, and here where I live in Finland we have the steering wheel on the left side as well, so there hasn't been really need for me to change the camera place. Maybe someday that could be a stream idea, I don't know. Make it undrivable to making the higher toe. Okay, it's a little bit surprising to hear. Because it should to stabilize the rear in basically every situation. Expect maybe on situation where you land to side. But otherwise, you know, I have never heard that it would have been like that. huge the lagging again, but it's not fault of the setup, it's just something I don't understand. Ah, it was my mistake. I like that, you know, when the dampers are fast like that, I can really make the car react when I want. I can leave the braking really late, which is my way of driving and my way of when I try to find speed. I want to just brake later and later. Yep, nothing basically new foundings than I already said. It's the biggest thing for me I would like to change is definitely how loose the car is at the exit of the braking, at the end of the braking, when I'm just coasting. And it's like super easy to done with the preloads, and well, let's drive more, but at the moment I would like to say that it's both the front and the rear. So maybe, what would I say? Rear to somewhere 160, 150, front to somewhere 80, 100 would be my guess, at least where to start with. Where I would like those
2, 1, go.
Yep, it's not gripping really good, the rear there. I can remember pretty good how much I was struggling with this car on the tarmac and how bad feelings I have from that testing. But this is definitely a lot more fun on the gravel. Because as I said, if you lose the rear on the gravel, it's not such a big problem, it's basically just fun. It's a problem that it's not fast, but basically it's fun. And a lot more easy to control, especially in Richard Virtually, than when you lose the rear on the tarmac. And I think that with higher preload, the losing of the rear would happen with more time, and it would be more logical, not so fast and snappy that it is at the moment like that. So it would be even more fun, and maybe it would not happen as big then. And thus it would be a little bit more faster as well to avoid all the biggest landings, not biggest landings, biggest snappy thing from the rear. I think how the suspension came out on the jump, it looked pretty nice, semi-realistic, nothing to complain there really, when we think about this from a realistic point of view. Don't know if there is any kind of goal for you, but for me it's always. And I started to think that, you know, who knows, if you can reduce the oversteer feeling on coasting, so basically between the time you release the brake and you go to the throttle, it could already help to the issue that the car is oversteering on the exit. Maybe part of that oversteering is coming already from the apex of the corner. If you lose the car a little bit there, and then when you go to the throttle, it's already loose enough to stay loose when you are on the throttle at the exit of the corner. So it could help also to that one as well. Sometimes, you know, an issue you have on the car behavior, it's coming from another issue. Like, you know, people are saying that the car is way too oversteery at the exit of the corner and on the apex. And sometimes it's because the car is so understeery that they need to throw it really heavily into the corner, which then leads to that big oversteer at the end of the corner. With more oversteer setup, or basically more better turning setup, in this case is better way to say it, they could buy a lot more gentle to turn the car into the corner, and simsalabim, it's not oversteering anymore at the end of the corner. I don't know if it's the case now here, but it could be, because it's really clear that when I compare the car's balance now when I'm on the throttle, when I'm on the brake, to the situation when I'm not neither, no throttle nor brake, it's a lot more looser when I'm, you know, just coasting. There's clear change of the balance and on the feeling of the car on those situations. And yeah, you know, I think aggressive driver, he would benefit most likely with big amount of locking, because, you know, all the inputs are then quite heavy, and if you like to drive the car pretty heavily and it's really loose from the differentials, it really feels loose then. It can be like that. And I don't know, you know, with more gentle driving style. Oh no, you know, this is setup stream still, not driving style stream. Let's not try to change anyone's driving style. Let's try to think only how we will improve the car to fit better to someone's driving style. That's the point of, you know, this stuff now. Really slow this car feels what comes to the engine, but that's something you cannot change from the setup values. I want to try this setup on the snow as well. I quickly go to the audio bar. There it was, I think, slipping the rear lock. The only 10% value there. Didn't really affect to the balance, but you know, you were able to hear how the revs went up, and you know, the car did almost nothing like sudden slide or anything like that. I think the inside rear wheel was just spinning there more than it basically should. Quickly to audio bar. Then we need to go to jumps. And then, for example, myhimpää to the end. And there is one more set to do, and it's the tarmac setup for the same car from the same author. I think this would be nice and fun car to drive in a championship where everybody would have to drive only this car. Because there's always the, you know, Lancer and Impress and Escort and Celica available. And then this is slow. But Mazda only championship would be nice and something a little bit new. In one fun way, at least on gravel and snow, not maybe on the tarmac. That was good, that landing, hey. No bouncing at all. If you compare, for example, I was hot lapping this stage with the new Yaris Rally 2, it's on the YouTube. It was bouncing a lot more on the landing, that car. Oh. But it's amazing how oversteer this car can still be on the throttle when you think that there's only 10% of locking on the rear. So like, how would this be if you put something like 60 to the rear and then maybe 20 to 30 to the front? Will it feel almost like a rear-wheel drive car? I don't know if you feel sorry now that I'm testing your gravel setup on the snow, but I do this with my own setups as well. I like this stage so much, and this is so good for me to understand the balance of the car. That, believe it or not, this is good stuff for me to do what I'm doing at the moment, to understand the car and the balance. There isn't really that kind of stage profile on the gravel, I think. And I've been driving this stage from the beginning, so I have a lot of things like where to compare. I think it could accelerate out basically. There again, the diffs were, you know, not holding anymore. But yeah, it could accelerate out maybe faster with stiffer locking on the rear. But then, because it will most likely cause more oversteer, it will be slower. But you know, it's basically... we are losing the ability to accelerate faster out because the lock is so open. But there's really good reason to have it so open, so you can just be fast and not oversteering too much every time you are on the throttle. Yeah, it was actually, I would like to say it was almost better on the snow than on the gravel, but big part of that is that it's so oversteered the car, and on the snow I like the things to be the most oversteering. Okay, that's nice to hear. I have no single idea the performance differences between these 2000 and the Delta, but if those are pretty close to each other, it sounds good. But on the other hand, you know, still I would like to see less classes on that championship as well. But that's then again another way it's good to have that kind of class. It's always the, you know, what do you prefer? There's good positive things on both solutions. I don't know what causes it, but you know, it felt that on the long... that landing was actually good. That on the long corners, the balance is better on the snow. It somehow, you know, I can trust the rear a little bit more. It wasn't on-off on the gravel either, but even less on-off it was on the snow. It was really logical how the grip developed during the corner on the rear. But yeah, lower, I don't know if it's causing then a lot of issue, but I think lower it could be. It's looking really high, the right head of the car. And then I think it would also reduce the rolling feeling. Of course you can reduce the rolling feeling from the roll bars as well, but that has again some side effects then for both the grip and then also behavior over all the rough stuff and things like that. And then by reducing the ride height, if it's possible without negative side effects, it will be good for the realism, which I always like. Let's try some jump stuff. Let's try Myhimpää. Actually, you are there. Would you like to select some jump stage for now? I think Savulahti is option, Myhimpää is option. Basically, Pirtti Pirtti Järvi. Korjaan, I fixed that. Pirtti Kulma would be one option. Quite many actually. Ruuhimäki basically as well. Myhimpää. Well, there is not a massive jumps on the Myhimpää, but there is tricky jumps. Let's do both. Quickly Ruuhimäki and then Myhimpää. Then we can watch another replay from the Myhimpää if needed. I think there is nothing, you know, the suspension speed, everything, how it working, it looks pretty good in my opinion. It feels pretty good, it looks realistic, what there is anything to look. And then the thing that I don't like personally is the ride height, how high the car is. But same time, I must say that the balance of the ride height, it looks good. So it's just overall pretty high.
3, 2,
Does this have power enough
1,
to go with the second? Yeah. Hello, Lupko. No, I'm not training for Sim Rally Masters. I'm just testing setups that people have sent to my Discord server during the summer when I did not have time to test these. There again, you know, revs are going higher and higher, but snow slide happens, it's slipping. It's slipping the rear differential, and it's basically we are putting power, we are wasting power on those situations a little bit. It just goes to the wheel spin. And one thing I need to say, when I've been all the time saying that I want more and more preload and preload and preload. But we do not have the handbrake properly available on this car. So basically what does that loose preload allows you is to do a really good Scandi flick even without, you know, heavy inputs. You don't need like 10-meter wide road and a lot of speed and force to do it. When the car is loose like that from the preloads, you can actually do pretty easily the Scandi flicks. So from that point of view, there is point to have preloads like that. When you need the final, you do the Scandi flick like, for example, right, left, right. So for the final right, when you release the brake and want the proper rotation to happen, you get the rotation pretty easily like that. And maybe if you would increase the preloads, you would then need to decrease the brake locking, especially from the rear, maybe a little bit more rear heavy brake balance, that you can create more pendulum effect before the final actually turn to make the Scandi flick happen properly when the car will be more stable, more understeer basically on the situation when you really release the brake pedal. Hello Soren. They has been testing quite a long time now. It's more than 30 minutes per setup. Proper or not proper, still proper is many 10 hours for setup, but anyway, that kind of nerds stuff. And the higher preload could also help to the situation that it's a little bit, you know, we are wasting the power on some of the exits. But if I would have to choose between two things, I lose a little bit of power because the inside rear wheel is spinning, but the car balance is good. Or I do not lose power and the inside rear wheel is not spinning and wasting the power, but the car becomes oversteering in a way that I'm losing time all the time when I'm sliding. I would definitely choose the option 1. Lose a little bit power but keep the car on the, you know, good position, good sliding angle, not too much, and thus be faster. That has been my way to do many of the rear wheel drive car setups as well, especially for the Lada. And I dare to say I'm pretty fast with the Lada. and big part of the speed development that I have been able to build during the almost 5 years of my Summer Rally and Lintapukki Rally, where the Lada is the only car available, big part of the speed development has been coming from that way of thinking. That I don't care if the differential is a little bit slipping here and there, but it's just so much faster to drive without the crazy lights that the more locked differential would give. Yes, at least you will have the setup now here from this stream from Navitori if you want to drive Sim Rally Master with this car. I tried a little bit that how much is really rotating when I release the pedals, and it's so much that maybe you can increase the preloads and still have good Scandi flickability in this car. Nicely turning here, many cars, and basically good setups are really understeer on that. But this is turning so well in that no problems at all. Need to drive pretty slow because I don't know how much there's, downforce and everything to drive those few corners, which I have been lately testing with the Rally 2 and Focus WRC, so those are a little bit different cars than this one. First big jump. Nice! I mean, you should not do even that high jump in real life with the Group A car, and this setup took it really nicely. Better than many modern cars in this game. And considering, we did not reach the ref limiter, but we always reach it, or at least the point where the car really want to accelerate more, I would say that the medium gearbox, it feels pretty good for this car. Now the proper possible issue. Super good, hey! Now in case you took the advice and reduced the ride height, take care that this jumping behavior is not going away, I would say. This is super good. Maybe you have to sacrifice the realistic look of the car to get this. I don't know what will happen with 10 to 20 millimeters less spring length, but at least with these springs, it's really nice, the jumping behavior. I don't know how much it's by default on this car, how much is because you have done it and achieved it with the setup working, but anyway, congratulations, it's nice, super nice, the jumping of this car. Is there any need to go to the Myhimpää anymore? Let's quickly try the first sector and then we try the same car on tarmac. But yeah, I would say in generally the base of this setup is good. Then those should be done by just little tweaking of the differentials, those little things that I don't like at least. And really nice bonus is the jumping behavior. And if you somehow can get 100 horsepower more to the engine, it's always
3,
good.
2, 1, go.
And if the jumping behavior would go bad if you decrease the ride height, I would maybe try stiffer roll bars, at least for these Finnish kind of stages. It's a little bit too much for me, the sideways rolling of the body. It may work nicely on a little bit slower, a little bit less grippy stages. But here is a little bit too much, taking away a little bit that kind of final confidence and willingness to really throw the car and attack properly, push it, you know, do the grid by pushing the car towards the road. There was actually first little kicker, but it's not a big issue. I would say the car was so nice on the Ruuhimäki that we can call it a good jumper. And it was also bad line over the jump now that I did. But yeah, for those things I need to back off. Little bit I need to back off because the car is rolling sideways too much for my taste. And then a lot more I need to back off because, you know, it's so loose from the preloads. I feel that if I throw the car in like I would want to, in the speed that I would want to, I don't really know what happens. Will I lose the rear totally or what? And it's a little bit, you know, making my steering nervous cause it's so loose, the feeling on the front as well because of the soft preload. I'm just unsure. There's like, I don't know how to explain it in English, but nothing to turn against to. It's just so feelingless, like taking the force feedback off or that kind of feeling. What it gives to me if there is not enough of preload. Even if personally I would say that I like quite small preload values, especially on the front. But still, I think a little bit more will be needed now on this setup. This is a difficult place for the setup always, let's see. Perfect. If you land to the ditch, but I land every car to the ditch always, so it's fair to land that one as well. I think we are done. I have nothing more to explore to say on this point. So conclusions, really good base of the setup. Negatives that I could find is how loose the car is while being on coasting. Doesn't matter the speed, slow, medium, fast, every time I'm coasting is super loose. And also on the really end of the brakings I got the loose feeling and it's a little bit eating away my confidence to push hard. On the other hand, it makes the Scandi flick really easy, but it's so good rotating during the Scandi flick, and I think it could be stiffer, the preload, without disturbing the Scandi flick. Maybe it could be a little bit stiffer from the roll bars, and for realistic and get that little bit stiffer feeling, I would decrease the ride height. But there is a risk that it destroys the really good jumping behavior that we were able to see on the Ruuhimäki, which was a really big bonus, a really big positive thing about this setup. And also, you know, somehow again, the general balance is pretty okay. It turns nicely into the corner. It's just disturbed by the loose feeling of the preloads. I really like the dampers, how those are looking in my eyes, pretty realistic, all the speed, how things are happening, those are feeling really nice as well. Fits my personal driving style really well, that kind of fast moving car. Maybe the rear could be a little bit softer to get a little traction to the rear, and it's then difficult to say what that would make to the jumping behavior. But there is maybe other things as well to try for the acceleration traction, and as I said, you never know if you can make the coasting better, more grip on the coasting, maybe that will already help to the acceleration grip then as well. And I know that for me, putting more toe would help, but you say that it wasn't the way for you, so then we respect that. And yes, Mazda, this is 323. Yeah, many times how this comes out of the box are not the most realistic outcome. And jumps has to do a little bit of work, so it's your achievement, the good jumping behavior, so big congratulations from that. And yeah, then we have one more to go. Tarmac for this car. And let's start on Valaske. Then let's go to the... that's already there. To the... what is the... Slin stage from Barun Rally. And then is this for smooth or rough or both? This setup. Now I would say we have that kind of realistic amount of suspension travel on gravel. Sorry, on tarmac. If you look some Group A footage from the tarmac, those are super stiff looking cars. And it feels that this is as well what comes to the springs. Let's see. Yep. It looks that the rear is a little bit faster for both up and down directions. But generally looking okay nicely. Again, the dampers, how everything is happening. Maybe the rear bump could be a little bit stiffer from that first impression that I saw. I would like to have a little bit more force feedback. I maybe should adjust that after this run. It's feeling a little bit too light. Steering, but that's not a setup issue, that's a steering wheel issue that I can fix. And brakes I need more as well. I do little adjustment, give me 30 seconds or 1 minute if the camera goes bad again. I increase the force feedback 10% and then let's see the camera. No delay. Rough. Okay, well then Semetin is the stage to go. Or maybe no need to restart here anymore. Let's go to the Slin. But yeah, we need first long and fast corners to see if this is oversteering in the same way that all the setup tries that I did was, which I did not like at all. This is loading so slowly these days that we are not taking any retries at least. Little bit it's maybe going up slower than the rear as well, the front. I did not change the braking, I think. We need to take a restart, even if it's loading slowly. How much more did I put on the gravel? I think something like 500. What was the 66 we need to remain? Let's go already like this. And again, this should not basically affect to anything other parts to the setup. It's just that I can get the amount of braking from the input that I want. It's not giving me the impression from the setup that the setup, you know, earns if I need to brake somehow wrongly. using like all the force that I have on my feet to make the car to stop. Still there could be more braking. It's turning pretty nicely, I think, when I'm on the brakes. Yep, it's really easy to, you know, follow the however the road is going while I'm on the braking. That feels super nice. On the throttle it feels a little bit more rear heavy. When I think that I would like to make the front to turn. But is it then done to get some kind of traction to the rear on the apex and exit of the corner? Don't know. There it was a little bit understeer on the throttle at least. No. Yep. It's really oversteer on the exits, like it was when I tried to set up this car. Which I did not like at all. Because your oversteering is nice, but when it's that kind of oversteer that you cannot save anymore, even with the full steering lock, it's then too much. It looks like even on-off. When I gently try to make the car oversteer, it's understeering. But when going over some point, it's then like... it's impossible. Little bit it feels loose, the rear. It like wants to start the wobbling when I'm on the braking. It doesn't start, but it's really close, the feeling that okay, now it start. It may be because of the brake lock is too open, it may be because there is too little of rebound on the damper or don't know what, maybe more toe could help. But a little bit that kind of feeling there is. And I wonder, when we go to the rough stage, if it then already too much. Let's go to the rough stage now. Replay would be nice as well, but on that stage there is no replay cameras. Then I put a little bit more braking still. I think at least the brake balance cannot explain the feeling. The little bit wobbly feeling from the rear looks okay. Especially when it's 50-50 car. How are then everything else? Okay, we still have 0 here. Well, it explains why the car was turning so nicely in, especially the front. It's I would say a little bit weird even to use 0 on the tarmac as well. But basically it worked nice, there wasn't really side effects of that. Only 20 on the front, so now we have gone a lot more oversteery balance. What comes to the throttle locks, the brake is less here on the rear as well. It may cause a little bit the wobbly feeling, because on the gravel, where you normally need a less locking, there was more locking on the rear. And now the tarmac, there is less locking. I think it could be, now when I see these values, somehow easy to fix, not maybe all, but at least somehow, the really oversteer behavior on the throttle when being on the big slide to increase especially the front, because this is really small value for the tarmac, and in case it's not enough, then reducing to the rear. 50% on the tarmac, it's not a big value, but when we compare this to the gravel setup, which was actually pretty nice, this is 5 times more. So for this car, in this case, this can be big value. Preloads 70 and 220. 70 is it's really little tiny value for the tarmac again. So increasing this would most likely help for the spinning, how easy the car is to spin after proper Scandi flick. On the other hand, part of this is explaining why the car is turning so nicely into the corners. Okay, on tarmac you are quite happy. You need to be really precise out of the hairpins, yeah. But have you tried to, well, already those things? Increase in front throttle, decrease in rear throttle, increasing front preload. All those, you have like 3 options, 3 really good options on this situation to try. At least 2 really good options. The front throttle and the front preload to increase these values. Your only problem can be solved pretty easily with these. Yes, 6.7 and 7 on the front, 6.5 and 6.10 on the rear. Yep, a little bit slower the front was looking and a little bit stiffer it is, so basically it makes sense. Springs 85-72, those gave a really nice realistic stiff look to the car and feeling as well. Okay, we have this issue. It goes like this. If you download this setup first, you got ride height, told like that. If you restart the game in a way that this was your last setup, you got ride height like that. But if you change the setup before you close the game, then open the game again, go to the setup menu, first watch the ride height with the other setup, and then select this setup, the ride height is normal. At least with the Audi Sport Quattro where is the same issue or bug. Because of what I told, I would say it's a bug. It's fixable like that. You just need to download some other setup first, then you will get the ride height out from the, you know, setup that is looking like this as well. But now ride height is mystery. We can actually try, it's so important now to get those one as well, so let's try that thing. Will it work with this car as well? So let's download this setup now, go to the stage, this is the gravel setup. Then we can go to the setup menu as well and check that the ride height, or actually now it should be broken for every setup if I'm right. It may be like that. It's a long time since I have been fighting with this bug. Last time on Sim Rally Masters tarmac event, I think. Okay, now we have the gravel there loaded. Let's restart the game. And then, if this goes like it goes with the Audi, now there should be correct ride height for this gravel setup, and we should get correct ride height for the tarmac setup then. Let's see. Yep. And now to the tarmac. No. So okay, for some reason with Sport Quattro it worked like that. With this Mazda it doesn't. So the ride height remains unknown, but it looked good. I don't know then, hopefully these other values are okay. So we have 2.2 of camper on the front, 0.5 positive toe, that is calming down the steering quite a lot. I would increase the preload and make the steering calmer like that. Also increasing the throttle lock from the front would make the steering more calm, not so nervous. And with those two changes, you should improve the hairpin behavior a lot. And if the car then is too lazy to react, you can reduce the tow back to 0 or even go to negative values. I will do it like that. Rear, somehow similar amount of camper. Why you have negative? Are these values okay now? Or if this, you know, book on the right hand messing this up? Why you have negative tow on the rear? In a car that is basically oversteer. Maybe one of the most oversteer car, because you know that is something like I never use, and what I've heard from the real life, it is some kind of, I can't really maybe say a rule, but you know, things that it's not really often used to use negative tow on the rear, because it's really make the rear want to, you know, step out. There is better ways to reach oversteering to the cars than using negative tow. But yeah, check if these are messed up. Yeah, no problems. Roll bars, then we have like this 17-13. Sounds really reasonable for the car that is oversteering. And the values as well. We have really stiff springs, short springs, so the need of roll bars is not something dirty at all. The below 20 should be totally enough. Tires like this, so compared to the gravel we have a little bit less pressure on the rear. Brakes we already changed and checked. 66 on the front. It's quite a lot, but again it's really oversteer car, so why not? Gears are medium like those were on the gravel as well. I checked. There is the long available as well. But the car is so powerless, I'm pretty sure it's faster to go with the medium gears on this case. Normally the long is always faster, but the really unpowerful cars, it can be that the medium or short, whatever are the options there, is actually faster. Let's see, base notes we need to take off after the game restart.
Three, two, one, go.
It feels really lazy to this uphill the engine. Little bit, I don't know, was it like dead the front after the small bump there? Like that kind of tiny moment where I could do nothing. It like died after the tiny jump for a little bit. Little bit that kind of similar anti-balanced jumping behavior than there was with the Mitsubishi setup. That the rear is somehow a lot more faster ready to perform again, and the front is losing a lot, or it takes a lot of time to recover from the jump. A lot more bounce than on the gravel, but of course it is. Tarmac setup should not be as good on the jumps than gravel setup, especially on the old cars. I think the new cars can be pretty good on the jumps on the gravel, sorry, on tarmac as well. Okay, yeah, but I would, you know, first start by taking away the negative tow from the rear, because it's just making the rear snappy. If you want it to be oversteer, you can, you know, there is a lot of room to make the spring stiffnesses more balanced on this setup. The rear was so much softer. You can increase the rear roll bar, decrease the front roll bar if you want. All those should give a lot more controllable and like better oversteer than the negative toe on the rear. I'm not used to the, you know, I need to be careful on the places where I want to flick the car a little bit, that I'm not flicking too much. I would say that the roll bar balance can be even a bit understeery. You can feel it here on the long and fast corners. Which is not really fitting to the balance of the car, how well this is turning on the braking and then on the exit of the hairpins and tight corners as well. So it's like a little bit different kind of balance on one situation and different kind of balance on other situation then. This is really bad place for the cars. This one took it semi-okay. When I lift the throttle, I'm afraid to touch the steering because it's again so loose while coasting. It's a little bit sad that it's also the rear where the preload is almost maximum already. But by taking away the negative toe and increasing just the front preload, it should help quite a lot to stabilize the car from the rear as well. The front preload is so little at the moment that it will make the whole car nervous, not only the front, I think. Let's see, here the middle of the road is a lot higher than the sides. And if we have too low car, it will bottom out, or the floor of the car will hit the road here. But this is not, so that's good. Yep. Let's go to the new Pops tarmac next. There is one clear jump where we can check a little bit the jumping behavior of this car. Then let's try it on the Sturek, which is my hairpin stage for sure. First little bump here. Took it okay, but I'm afraid of the rear, what it will do. It will like really wake up all the time to catch if there is something to catch. A little bit like fishing. Okay. We are not too sad about that because it's big jump. We are on the tarmac with really stiff and realistic looking suspension, so it's not an issue if the car cannot do a big jump like that. I mean, the height of this jump is more than the car height. It's really bad. Bad place to test cars, or especially old cars on tarmac. It's like too too bad place, but I wanted to see a little bit still. It's a little bit like unfair. Put car like this, and setup like this on this jump. Maybe if you would have done some unrealistic, really soft and long springs, then, but this is not the case. Yep. Little bit slower and it's already okay, in my opinion, somehow like realistic, what I could assume I would see if a Group A rally Mazda comes in a real life, I do a car height jump. It's something like that, you know, it's bouncing for sure. Let's not do too sad about that. And then on the other hand, this took the cementing bridge quite okay, which is really good thing. Where's my Sturek? Here. But yeah, it's a few things I would like to change on this one, more than there was on the gravel setup, definitely. Let's try how it goes without any slides. Yeah, it goes basically nice, but it feels that the rear is even pushing a little bit, and then the front is really loose. It's so big, the gap between the preloads. But the end result was like still okay. Little loose feeling there from the rear, but nothing special. That would have been a spin again if the front would have not go to the grass. Nice. Many times on this corner you can feel, or at least I can feel something. If there's something really unbalanced with the roll bars, what comes to the total amount of the roll bar stiffness, this felt pretty good. At least not too stiff. It's just spinning so, like the front of the car does nothing when I'm on the throttle, even if I'm not on the max throttle. It feels that all the stuff I can get from the engine goes to the rear only. The front is, you know, it doesn't really help if I'm counter steering, because the front is like, it feels it's doing nothing. Which is something I know comes also from this car. It's not only a setup thing, but considering the values at the moment on the setup menu, it can be put a little bit better way. At least, if not fixed totally. Soon comes fast left, where still bumps, where I lost my mind with this car when I tried to do the setup by myself, because I was always losing the rear here. This took it pretty okay. I did also a mistake which could affect, but we go soon and try again. Some hope there is to survive, but not a lot of hope. Let's try again that. Again, and this was wrong monitor the cursor. No delays. Let's go 1 kilometer back. Little bit is also wobbling maybe sideways the rear, so the stiffer roll bar could be okay if it's not making the oversteering worse on the places where it wants to oversteer a lot. Okay, it's doing exactly the same that all my setup variations did. It just steps out. But yeah, I can't blame the setup of that, because I literally did every single thing and it was always the same. Yeah. I don't know if someone has made a setup that can do it. If it's possible, how unrealistic or how weird stuff you need to do. Or then it's just really impossible, I don't know. I want to try quickly what happens with few changes. Let's put this to the 50, which is actually maximum for this car. On the front it seems. And then we go this with this one to somewhere, I don't know, 150. Will this save the hairpins? Because it was the basically the only thing you said you were struggling with, but now there is also that, you know, fast corner with little compression thing. Let's see. It may be that it's now bad on other places, but let's see what this did for the hairpins. A lot better, at least that. Let's try to coast this one again if it's still okay. No issues. So I think there could be even more preload on the front. It's not too understeer yet. But it's a little bit weird, because, you know, on the same time you would like to make the rear softer to gain grip, but then it just comes more wobbly and it feels like the wobbling is then breaking the grip. Not enough here, still. Let's try one more change. Then not more, because again it's not basically the purpose of this stream. We cannot make the front stiffer anymore, so let's reduce the rear a little bit. But this one we can make a little bit stiffer. It's, you know, if the car would have something like 500 horsepower or even the WRC power, then it would be maybe somehow more acceptable, at least on this game. But this is so powerless until it spans like a rear-wheel drive car. It's really weighted. Maybe a bit more understeering out there. There was like a little moment where the front went straight instead of continuously turning, but if that would fix the hairpins, I will definitely take that. Okay. Let's try again, because the flick was not so heavy anymore, because the front was quite stable under the flicking situation. But we cannot say yet if the car wasn't spinning easily, because the thing that makes the car spin basically was now a lot less than on the previous runs. No. It's just, as I said, we have 180 on the front, the preload, 50% the throttle locking. I'm fully counter steering, but the front is not pulling the car the way my steering is. There should be no center diff that would, you know, make the things worse. No, there should be all the time the same stuff going the front and the rear. It just feels that there's nothing on the front until or when we pass some point on the slide. Like, no. I have recovered from that kind of slides with even rear-wheel drive car, I think. Even if those are as well really oversteer in these situations in Richard as well. It's just not. So at least, unfortunately, I would have more ideas, yes, but as I said, I have tried all of those, at least while being somehow in some realism window. So, unfortunately, I don't know how to help on this situation. Do we have some replay from some stage? Let's do one more time the Messi Ritchie with the original setup, and then watch a replay from that, and then this stream is done. More than 3 hours for 4 setups, it's quite a lot. But it's good. Normally it has been a lot more speedrun when I have done these kind of streams. Too precise driving there. One thing of course is again that if the car would be more stable under the flick, would the end come, the exit of the corner, be better? But considering how the oversteer is coming, is developing, it's just the exit of the stream. It doesn't, you know, the middle of the hairpin can feel okay still, and then the really exit feels like out of control. So because of that, I don't think, you know, that is the way to go either. There is something happening on the exit until a certain point of sliding, when it suddenly behaves like a rear-wheel drive car. Or even worse. But good thing basically is that the hairpins are faster to do without any flicking or sliding. It's just boring and slowly drive those without any slides, and at the end that's the faster way of doing those. So it's not going to affect your performance. It's just stupid and unrealistic in my way, in my opinion. Can't even do donut because the rear is so loose. Yep. And no is a problem. Thanks for you about sending these setups and all the others as well who sent these setups and give them some material to do these streams. I don't know now some conclusion for the setups. For sure the suspension is good, I like it, it's realistically looking, it's realistic feeling for this kind of Group A car. Dampers as well, basically nothing to complain, it was something I would say good enough. The one pump, heavy pump we tested, the Cemetin bridge, it was okay. On one place, few places on the Cemetin, it felt a little bit that the front takes time to recover. It's a little bit like undrivable after pumps. I don't know where it's coming. Could it be that faster rebound would help? Or is this, if it's then too soft from the pump, that it's too hard the compression, too fast the compression, I don't really know. But it didn't feel like a big issue, definitely not. Then what I don't like is how loose it is on coasting. It can be really easily, I think, fixed for the stiffer preload. You still have room to increase the preload on the rear. You have loads of room to increase it from the front. It may be that it will help a little bit to the hairpin behavior, but from my experiences it won't save it. And because the car is pretty nice to drive other way, I don't know if there's point to change the throttle locks, because those won't anyway save you on the hairpins. So why would you then disturb something other because of that if it's not going to help anyway? When looking at how the car is, the position of the car, it looks pretty rear heavy. And someone could think that okay, rear heavy setup, something like that, it's difficult to turn in, but then when it turns, it really turns. Would it be better to make it a little bit more rake to the car and maybe make it even better to turn in, but then you will survive with less impact and then it won't snap so heavily. But as again, I have already said, I tried that and everything else, and it did not fix the oversteering issues that I had with this car. So most likely it's not the way to go. I can't remember how was the rake on gravel, and basically it doesn't matter because we cannot see it now because there's the book on the setup menu. But maybe if you have time I will try the same, exactly the same rake, the same ride-height balance that you have on the gravel, because it worked really nicely on the gravel. Could it bring something good to the slide behavior of this, but most likely it won't. Then the embarrassing spin here on the hairpin here done. Like that, it feels like rear-wheel drive car. The front is just not pulling at all. I don't really understand why. It's four-wheel drive car. Yep, that's it. Thanks for sending the setups and watching and commentating there. There is still a few setups from the summer that I will test then someday, and if you want your setups to be tested on my stream, I think the good way now and for the future would be that send those on the setup channel of my Discord, because there those won't get lost so easily. And then if some other wants to try those as well, those will be there. In every other case than in those cases where you don't want that the setup values will be shown on the stream. On those kind of setups, if you have a setup that you would like me to test, but you would not like that I show the values to everyone, then private message those ones to me, but every other you can put to the Discord. So other ones can try those as well if you want. And terve, krasse kasse. We are actually ending now the stream. but anyway, terve and see you next time.